In this episode of the Tech John, we discuss ICE's new facial recognition mobile app, Tinder requiring new California users to use facial recognition to verify their accounts, Section 230 not shielding Meta and TikTok in a subway surfing wrongful death suit, and if AI and robotics are coming for your braids. Got all this and more for you in episode 184 of the Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, TechLifeSteph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Mr. 5K. I ran my first 5K over, well, let me be clear with my words. I walked my first 5K. Yeah, I don't get nobody no impressions that I'm out here, kicking my knees, high knees, high elbows, this whole 5K. No, we walked, me and my wife did it. It's the HBCU, I think the 15th annual 5K walk for HBCUs. So you go out there, all the not all of them, a majority of them are out there, colleges we never heard of before. Everybody's got their tents, everybody's got their college shirts and gear and teams together, and it's a good time. Got out there, did the walk, wasn't that bad. I wasn't walking slow, wasn't no slouch, but me and my wife was out there, and I had an inkling to try to run a little bit, but it's like I'm not gonna leave the missus because she's trying to build her knees up, so she wasn't trying to run at all. So I was like, all right, let me just stay back here and just pace myself. And then maybe the next 5K and then the next 5K. And then this time next year, when I run it, then I'll for real run it the entire 3 miles. So that's the goal. But, I had a good time.
Well, congratulations, man. Even if you walk, that is a feat. My wife and I started walking, I want to say back around Mother's Day. Maybe no, it's around Easter, actually. It's a little earlier than that because it was still cold. And we have not gotten to 5K yet. We're just a little bit over 2 miles. So we're working our way up to 5K. And then we're going to walk a 5K at the end of the year. So I applaud you in your efforts.
It has some nice tech out there too. It wasn't high tech or anything, but you start the race. There's a big start balloon thing that how the kids slide down the inflatable balloon things, kind of
bouncy house kind of,
the bouncy house kind of start thing, right?
Yeah,
and you go under it, but I really didn't recognize that it's the official start until you get an email as soon as the race ends. Oh, you finished the race, check your results. And I'm like, how y'all y'all got my phone?
I always feel like
get your geofence,
and they got the time, and then they got pictures when I cross. I'm like, I don't remember nobody taking no picture. And I was trying to figure out, well, how did they track us? They didn't, maybe when I'm thinking they got me when I subscribed to the emails, that they use my email and triangulated that to get my phone number. But in actuality, the bib has a microchip in it.
Oh,
wow.
When you cross the line, I didn't figure out this until like later, and I started doing the math. I was like, oh, they must have chipped the bib. So when you go across, the
bib,
it's a little chip on the back, like a little, and when you go across, it tracks your time, and then whatever automatic cameras when you cross snap pictures, so you can go online, see your picture when you crossed, and you didn't have to do nothing, no interaction. That's the kind of technology I like, to where there's really little to no interaction. I ain't got to scan nothing. I ain't got to sign up for nothing. I ain't got to enter no code to get nothing. It's like based on your bib, it tracked when you started, when you end, and then they get you all the places based on your age. This is where you ranked. Based on your speed or your pace is where you ranked. And you got the pictures, almost like a roller coaster. At the end, download the things, see whatever. And then if you want to download the pictures, if you want to download the pictures, you gotta pay a couple bucks. But
it's race that is just light creepy.
Yeah, just enough for
creepy light.
Interesting creepy, not creepy, scared creepy.
Yeah.
Right. Like it benefited
cool.
me. So
It's high tech 5K races.
Side note, I know we didn't talk about putting this in the rundown. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but did any of you follow that young woman that was trying to break the 4-minute mile?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. So it was very controlled. I don't think she got under 4.
It was
like
no, she got
was
406. She beat her best time,
Uh-huh.
her previous best time, because I think her previous best time was 407, and she got like 406 ish. But she didn't break the 4 minute mile. And forgive me, listeners, for not knowing the woman's name. No, she would have been the first woman to do it. And they definitely, it was. I mean, I guess if you run it, you run it. I can't be mad if you get under the time, but they definitely, it was a very controlled.
It was not regular race conditions. She had people breaking her wind and all that kind of stuff.
And they literally designed a sport bra for her that was aerodynamic, and like everything was designed, and she ran with a bunch of people around her, to Robb's point, like to break, and to keep her on pace. There were lights on the track that were like green, yellow, red that showed her if she was on pace, that she could see. So they tried to literally control for every variable to get her under 4 minutes, and she just she tried her best, and she ran hard. I mean, I was like, go ahead, girl, because I mean the idea that the mile is a sprint, is considered a sprint, is insane to me. And to even get it in 406 is like, world record setting. So shout out to old girl. But yeah, it was like, it does bring up the question, like, is it a real under 4 minute mile if you have all of these other factors helping you get there? I don't know.
And not only that, and does it need to be broken? I'm like, humans, we are top of the food chain, and we assume that we've got the best, got thumbs, and we've got all these bones and all these muscles, and we just assume that we're just supposed to do everything. Like, there's some things that we just ain't supposed to do, and we're supposed to be okay with that, but we're still trying to push and press.
Yeah, there was a bruh who broke the 2-hour record or the 2-hour bar for a marathon. It was the same thing. He had a whole team of people who were running, breaking his wind. It would have never been a real marathon course. It was as flat as they could possibly make it.
There was I watched that documentary. There was a documentary, I guess Nike probably produced it. It was called 2 or something like that, and she has one as well now it's on Prime, the whole following her trying to beat it. But yeah, I saw that one too, Rob.
So will they break the record? Yes, but it'll have all these asterisks and caveats next to it. When somebody does it at a world championship or an Olympics or something like that, that's when we will really think that, oh wow, we got people out here running 26 miles in under 2 hours. That's or under female athlete running under 4 minutes for a mile. That's when it'll actually mean something. But it's still pretty cool. Because that is, you're right, Terrance. That is sprinting the entire way. I don't think the regular people know how fast these marathon runners are actually running.
And it is kind of like, I agree with Terrance in the sense that, like, we should just do what our bodies naturally enable us to do,
and we'll get there
instead of trying to be bionic, Steve Austin's out here. Like, just if you can do it, hook it up. If not, then maybe it wasn't meant for you to do.
Well, you know what folks can do? They can just do it naturally. They can subscribe to the Tech John on YouTube. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are a YouTube channel, or we have a YouTube channel, and we put our show on YouTube for those who would like to watch it. And those numbers have been going up, ever so slightly over the past several months, actually. So I just wanted to make sure I let folks know that if you do head over to the Tech John, just search for the Tech John on YouTube, you will find us. And if you're watching the show over there, and many of you are, we see the metrics. Be sure to subscribe to the show. That'll make sure that every time we post, it'll pop up, in your feed for you. And also like the show. That would do a lot for us in that algorithm to get more people to become aware of the Tech John. So with that being said, we're going to jump into this first tech story, y'all. This one came out. I think I noticed this last week out of 404 Media. And it's an article about how ICE, that is Immigration Customs Enforcement, is now using a new mobile app that employs real-time biometrics to identify people's, to verify people and to identify people, and is using facial recognition to do it. It's using thumbprint recognition. And this is all based off of the camera on the phone. So they basically going up to folks, pointing the camera at you, and trying to figure out who you are. And I want to talk about this because we know specifically for Black and brown folks that AI, or I shouldn't say AI, but facial recognition is wildly unreliable. But yes, the actual authorities are now using this to identify people just out on the street. So what say you?
This is going to be bad. And it's going to be bad for Black folks, I think, particularly,
Black
not
women.
just not just because the technology is so faulty, but they have now started targeting Haitian immigrants in the United States as well. And, you can't look at a Haitian and tell that they're Haitian. You know what I mean? You can't look at a Jamaican person and tell that they're Jamaican and not, African American. So the idea that you are now, you've moved on to a new group of people you've decided to start rounding up at will, and you'll be using technology that doesn't work. Just like that pretty much puts any person of color in harm's way.
Yep. This is what they mean when they say slippery slope, because they start with one demographic, and then before you know it, they use the technology for another purpose. And then before you know it, they use the technology for another purpose. And before you know it, you are now the subject, and you can't understand why all of a sudden all this technology and all this stuff is bad, when in the beginning you couldn't empathize with what was going on because it didn't affect you directly. This is one of those instances where facial recognition, you need to be learned up. You need to understand what's going on because they are using it, and you need to know that it's not foolproof and is sent more false positives, and it can wrap you up in this and that and the third. And it's like, you're supposed to know about this because eventually you're going to be affected. So it's like, let's not wait until, and not care, more importantly, when this affects other people, but then only be concerned when it affects us, because it's coming, and this is how it starts
for all of us.
Yeah, I actually had something about Haiti for the after party, but you know how we do, we jump all over the map sometimes. But we're getting to the point, and let me go back to the tech on the story. So here's how they are getting the database of faces. So anyone who travels internationally from within the United States, now when you go to TSA, they're scanning you, taking a picture of you right there when you're showing them your passport or whatever to get on
I
the
decline
plane.
that. And you can, as an American citizen, just FYI, I don't mean to cut you off, but as an American citizen, FYI, you can decline that. It's never been an issue before, but I've never let them scan my face at the airport. You can look at my ID, you can pat me down, whatever you need to do, but nah.
And this is why you have a tech show that you get to talk to thousands of people every week to tell them this kind of stuff. Because one of the problems that you have is that when they scan your face, you think they're scanning it just so that they can use it for that thing that they scanned it for. But that's not all that they're using it for. It's like, oh, you know what? We made a mobile app. We need some faces. There's a whole lot of folks that are scanning their face at the airport. Let's go use that database. So now a database that was used for one thing is being used for something else. And as we have said repeatedly since episode 1, this stuff is so inaccurate for Black and brown people, specifically Black and brown women, that it's amazing to me that, yeah, we're good with this. But like I said, you have to think about what is the reason and the rationale for it. And, we mentioned, the Haitians. So I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, where there is a massive Haitian population. Folks that are there on temporary protected status, the TPS, are refugees. And they've been basically, coming since like 2010, when there was that massive earthquake that just displaced so many people in there. So you've got folks that have been here 14, 15, going on 16 years. And now it's like, nope, you got to go. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. How can you tell the difference between a Black person that's dark skinned and a Haitian person that's dark skinned? You can't. They just Black folks that might be Haitian. So you're going to have to deal with what you got to deal with. And because, like I said,
it sucks because
till you talk to one that may have an accent, you don't know.
We have all these people out here now impersonating ICE officers who I'm sure have also read this article and will just hold up their phone to someone and say, oh, you came up in my database, you know what I mean? And just like I could see women and girls being trafficked behind this. It just hurts, it breaks my heart, I'll put it that way, what this country has come to in dealing with this immigration issue, and the fact that they're literally just trying to obliterate people of color from this land, basically. And I don't know if the solution is for us to all just be outside wearing shiesties or something and just refuse to allow ourselves to be identified or scanned. But
but I think well, go ahead. I was
I'm done.
No, I was going to say it's fear. They are doing that on purpose, whether or not. Well, let me back up. One of the Supreme Court rulings last week just made it harder for federal courts, district court judges to put injunctions to stop executive orders and stuff like this from happening.
Yep.
So that's one. And then number two, they are leaning on these immigrants' fear. Well, more importantly, their understanding of our laws, which probably is little to none understanding, and two, fear. If police with ICE,
but they want us all to be afraid, and not just the immigrants.
And right, but they're starting with the immigrants and getting them ready, and then tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it and getting better and getting better. And before you know it, it's another group. Before you know it, it's another group, another group, another group. And then we're all under this weird police state, and we don't figure out how do we get here. It's like we can point back to
the
June
very
30th,
beginning.
2025.
So why are none of the three of us a fan of using a mobile app with facial recognition when you are ICE? Because it misidentifies people regularly. I think we have had no fewer than 6 conversations about AI, the police basically misidentifying someone. In a few of these cases, the police knew that they were misidentifying, but they were like, but the system says it's you, so I got no choice. I have to I have to bring you in. And then that person has to go through at their expense. They have to go through getting lawyers and getting all this stuff figured out, only to get it figured out. And then what they end up doing, suing the city. And when you sue the city, that is taxpayer money that is going to this. So you literally have taxpayer money going to pay these folks that have had their rights trampled over because of faulty AI.
But we're not even going to get that latitude at this point, because they're not giving the immigrants due process. You don't even go to court. You just end up in some detention center somewhere, not even able to prove who you are or not. And if that's one of us and they're like, you look like the Haitian on my phone, like what recourse would we have to even try to clear our names and before we end up somewhere and who knows what could happen to us while we're in the detention center, because that's an issue at this point. I want to read real quick clip from the article. It says, quote, face recognition technology is notoriously unreliable, frequently generating false matches and resulting in a number of known wrongful arrests across the country. Immigration agents relying on this technology to try to identify people on the street is a recipe for disaster. Congress has never authorized DHS to use face recognition technology in this way, and the agency should shut this dangerous experiment down. This was from the deputy director of the ACLU, Nathan Freed Wessler. And it's just like, but it's crazy because this administration is just running amok and nobody is doing any. Well, I guess they are, but
they're helping.
Well, judges are saying you can't do this, you can't do that, but they're doing it anyway. Like, what is the recourse when the legislative branch, which is supposed to hold the executive branch accountable, tries to, and they still do what they want to do anyway? What's the recourse at that point?
I want to save my response for the after party. That is the tease, because we will probably come back around to this in the after party where there won't be so much tech. I do want to get back to the tech of this. So one of the things that I've actually just very recently heard somebody talking about is that there are a multitude of applications that you can put on your Android device, put on your iPhone, that if you do have an encounter with ICE, because of the things that Steph said about that, they're not regular police. They're not letting anybody know that they have you. They just have you. And now your loved ones are wondering monitoring where
Yep.
are you. So there's a bunch of different applications out here, apps like Ice Block, which allows users to report ICE activity and share information about potential raids. Notifica, which enables users to instantly alert a designated contact when you've been detained. Find Hello provides a map-based directory of resources for immigrants. So there are a bunch of different apps out there, but like Notifica, one of the reasons I like that one is because you actually can give it commands of what you want it to do. So as soon as you think that you might end up being in a situation with a ICE representative, you can hit a button and it essentially will go live. You can't turn it off. You can only, it will not use biometrics to stop that app. It'll continue to run as long as you don't physically break the phone, and it will notify everybody and has a live account of what's going on. So it's sad that that's where we've gotten to, but that's where we've gotten to. And for folks who might, be particularly, listen, specifically who are listening to the Tech John, here's the thing: there's 500,000 folks that had TPS revoked, that are Haitian. In Columbus, Ohio is 45 minutes away from Springfield, Ohio. And you cannot tell me that there will not be some black and brown folks that get picked up because you looked Haitian, or this app makes me think that you might be this person. Look, how do you look? Hey, but yes, but that's going to happen. Why do we know this is going to happen? Because it has already happened. And there are report after report after report after report of not even naturalized citizens, actual US born citizens born in the United States. Until last week, that was literally what made you an American. You had to be born here. Now, it looks like the Supreme Court has said, no, we're not going to allow injunctions to overrule a executive order that is completely
that defies the Constitution of the United States.
Constitution, but that hasn't gotten to him yet. So hopefully that will get to the Supreme Court, very quickly. But you know what? I don't even know what this court. They might say, nah, we don't think that that's what they meant when they wrote specifically in the Constitution that if you were born here, that you are a U.S. citizen. But but who knows? But y'all, we're going to keep it on. Yeah, we're going to keep it on facial recognition because Terrance, you stuck a story in here about Tinder that is now requiring new users in California, I believe, to use facial recognition to verify their accounts.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is Attack of the Catfishes and people have gotten upset enough or been affected enough by a catfish that they have complained to Tinder, and this is their response. But basically, Tinder's doing just that. Tinder is requiring new users in California to use facial recognition technology to verify their profiles. The new quote face check feature aims to reduce impersonation on the dating app and ensure that people aren't being connected to bots or fake accounts. Face check requires that you take a short video selfie while you're signing up to use the app. The scan confirms the person is real, checks if their face matches their profile photos, and also detects if the same face is being used across multiple accounts. Axios, who created the report, noted. So that's what I wanted to bring up. Does this sound, I guess, helpful for people who are using dating apps and feel like they're not talking to the real person or may have been catfished? Or is this something else to where we're talking about this may be precedent towards using your face to age verify on websites? And does that violate your personal, your whole privacy, to where if you're using your face to verify who you are, but then also using that to send you ads or whatever the case may be, is this a slippery slope? Like we talked about in the last story, is this a slippery slope for us to get used to using our face everywhere? Or is this like really needed? Again, I don't know. I don't be dating, but is this type of technology really needed to fend off people who are catfishing on dating apps when you're trying to know the real person behind the profile?
Yes, but
okay. Right.
yeah, because romance scams are huge.
Okay.
And it is a huge thing. I know one person, a good friend of mine in particular, whose pictures have been used across multiple different dating site profiles. I mean, he's a handsome dude, and he's had to,
that ain't me.
Yes, a lot of times, like a lot.
Dang.
And even now, you know, the technology is so good to where you can do a real-time filter and have a whole conversation with somebody who is not who they say they are. I mean, it like romance scams are costing people a lot of money, costing people their lives, because that's one of the ways that the sextortion of young people is happening, because you're thinking you're talking to these people and you're not. So yes, you know, something is needed to combat that. However, in light of what we just talked about, I would not be comfortable allowing a dating site to scam my face, because dating sites notoriously don't make a whole lot of money either. And I could absolutely see
Them
a
selling it.
secondary part of their revenue being selling that data, that biometric data, to the government or some other Palantir or something like that. So it sucks, because you actually don't really get to necessarily take advantage of the solution, which could be a good solution.
Oh, well, let's make the story even worse, because I read in this article something that was very interesting to me. Once your video has been uploaded, they will delete your video, but they will not delete your biometric facial footprint. That stays with this company forever. So even if you delete your account, they still have that. Now, the rationale is because, well, we wouldn't want someone else to use your face and then I get that.
Sure.
I get why they're saying that, but that would be, I was gonna say that would be problematic for me. It wouldn't be problematic for me because I would never be on there in the first place. I just celebrated 25 years of marriage, so I'm good. I don't need to worry about this.
Lord willing, let's knock on wood.
But I do think this, however, about this. This is very, very different than the government forcing you into a system, as compared to you paying a company and saying, in order to use our system, we need to verify your face in this way. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You're just not going to have a verified account, and then there will be some things that you don't do. You are at least at that point making an informed decision, and they're telling you everything they're going to do. Now, that doesn't make me trust it. It just makes me fully aware of these are at least the rules today that they're telling me that I have to abide by. And does making that connection on Tinder kind of, does it outweigh you giving up your biometric data in the way of your face?
I wouldn't do it for Tinder. I'll put it that way. If we're talking about platforms, Tinder, has been branded the hookup app since it was developed.
Sure.
So I wouldn't necessarily give them that kind of information if I was seriously looking, because I'm a little bit old school, but I understand that dating apps are a way that people of this era actually do meet and marry their partners. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those like, oh my God, man, I want an app. You know what I mean? There's not a stigma attached to it anymore. So this is a legitimate source for some people to meet their matches. I don't believe Tinder is necessarily that platform. Now, if you're on an eHarmony, if you're on a Bumble, if you're on, something like that, where I think people actually are taking this search for a partner a little more seriously. I mean, you're not scanning my face under any circumstances. So that's just, but I could see where somebody would say,
this is serious.
Yes, I am being very intentional about finding a partner. So I'm using this app. I'm paying for the upgraded, via Premier subscription. I'm doing all these things
to weed out these Yahoos.
Yes, to weed out the Yahoos. Exactly. Right. Then let me go ahead and make sure, people know
I'm talking to a real person.
And I'm talking to a real person and all that. So I could see where it could be worth it. I don't think Tinder necessarily is the place where people are going to be willing to do it.
Sure.
I think I've told this story here on the show. I actually have it's not my direct friend. It's a friend of a friend, but somebody that I know and would talk, and say hey to and have a, good conversation. But she used a executive matchmaker to find someone who she's now engaged to and getting married to in September.
Yeah.
So now when she tells the story of everything she had to go through, and it's even, and it's, her as the woman, but even more so for the man, they did an FBI level background check on her and and the other person. It wasn't just facial, it wasn't
But
really
she
facial
also probably
recognition.
paid 4
Yeah,
figures.
that's what I'm
She paid
saying.
thousands of
You
dollars.
said
Yeah,
executive.
yeah.
When people
She
put
paid.
executive in front of anything, they want you to pay
She
that
paid
money.
at least 4 figures, if not more, for
Yeah,
that.
she paid a grip for it. It was in the tens of thousands of dollars. But they
Which
had
makes
all
me
kind of
wonder.
videos and everything else of they literally went through everything, because they said one of the things that we can do as we're matching you, if you are honest about everything, and we make sure that everybody else is honest about everything, you just cut out a lot of bull in the middle of getting to know someone when you are on a clock. Now, her thing was she wanted to meet the right person, because she was already, I think when she started doing this, she was already like 41 or 42, and she wanted to have kids. So it's like, okay, I'm on the clock. I don't have time to go through 5 years of dating until I find the right person. If we can speed that up, that's what, ultimately she was looking for. And she did. Like, so, I've clearly I've met her, and I've met her, now fiance, a couple of times, and they're getting married in September. So, good things have come from, from this. And they've been dating for a while. They've been dating for probably the last 18 months. It wasn't like it was, they just met and they automatically, decided to get married. But she will tell you that she is a fan of doing what she did, simply because it cut out a lot of the, I got to find out, does this bro really live here? Does he really have this job? Does he really do all this stuff?
I'm not mad.
Yeah,
I ain't paying that. I ain't gonna say I ain't paying. I'm not currently willing to come out the pocket like that. But I'm not mad at that. So,
well, I was just gonna say, people be fronting. And what I mean by that is they claim, oh, the dating pool is trash and I can't find no good people out here. It's like, you really ain't really trying, because if you was really serious, you'd be willing to invest some serious time and some serious money into finding somebody, right? And I think a lot of people just use that as an excuse. Oh, there's no good men out here. There's no good women out here. All men want this and all. I think, side note, if you're listening right now, this is relationship advice. This ain't tech advice right now. So, but I think people want to cut corners and want the easiest way out, and free and fast and simple is, versus spending money. Like, maybe if you are serious about finding somebody on a dating app, which I think is almost oxymoron, but anyway, people still do it. Be willing to upgrade, and maybe this facial thing is you like, all right, I'm trying to take this serious.
It's being intentional about it. Right. And that's what I think. I think if you're legitimately legitimately intentional about doing it, and doing that gets you like some sort of verified badge that says this is the person who they say they are, whatever. I ain't doing it, but somebody might. Somebody might.
So, facial recognition to create a verified profile on a dating app if you live in California. That's very interesting. And I'm certain that people absolutely do it for the very reason that we just talked about. So, y'all, this next story here, we've talked about Section 230 on this show regularly. And usually it is the ills of Section 230. It is the things the big companies are able to get away with because of Section 230. But this one, Terrance, is one where it looks like Meta and TikTok are not going to get off the hook for a wrongful death suit, surrounding subway surfing, where a teen ultimately, killed themselves doing some stuff that they saw on social media. So what's going on?
Right. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the title. Section 230 has far failed to shield Meta and TikTok owner ByteDance from a lawsuit raised by a mother who alleged that her son's wrongful death followed a flood of subway surfing video platforms intentionally targeted to teens in New York. And that's the important part. Intentionally targeted to teens in New York. In the decision Monday, New York State Supreme Court Judge Paul Getz, all right, largely denied social media companies' motions to dismiss claims they argued should be barred under Section 230 and the First Amendment. Long story short, Section 230 means that these companies, these social media platforms, Meta, Netflix, not Netflix, any social media, they are just the place where content is found. So therefore, they are not held liable if something happens, because it ain't our content, basically. So I know Stephanie's got a whole bunch of other specifics, But that's the general idea. You can't blame us. It's user content. Whatever happens between y'all, it's between y'all. Y'all can't come sue us, right? The difference in this one is I'll just read it. Unlike other Section 230 cases in which platforms' algorithms were determined to be content neutral, meaning not leaning one way, not leaning the other way, Getz wrote in this case, it is plausible that the social media defendant's role exceeded that of neutral assistance, the defendants being TikTok and Meta. It is plausible that social media defendants' role exceeded that of neutral assistance in promoting content and constituted active identification of users who would most be impacted by the content. So the way I'm reading this, Stephanie, you can check me if I'm wrong. Gates is saying that Meta and TikTok were not neutral in providing content. They took the content and are specifically targeting two people who are most susceptible to view it, to comment, to whatever the case may be. Think of the algorithm. So basically, this lady is saying the algorithm targeted her son, and that's what ultimately led to his incident. And since the content was targeted directly to him, the company should be held liable. So what do you think?
So here's the thing on this and why they're not getting over. Do you know what teens were not targeted? Teens in Columbus, Ohio. Why? Because Columbus, Ohio does not have a subway or an L. There's no way to subway surf in Columbus, Ohio. There's no way to subway surf in a lot of places. In a lot of places, TikTok and Meta were not targeting teens there. They were specifically targeting teens that were susceptible to these videos in places where they actually have subways and elevated trains where you can actually do the subway surfing trend, which is a horrible thing. It's like, I know we're talking about teenagers here. Come on, y'all. You don't mess around with subways.
Look, man, this is times,
I know.
Man,
but we got grown folks eating Tide Pods too. So I get that. But that's what's making this different. It's like, no Meta, no TikTok. You can't say you didn't have anything to do with this because you had everything to do with it. You targeted the children. You targeted the teens in the places where the teens are able to do this. You didn't target everywhere. If you would have saw this video going out everywhere, they might have been able to get over. But the fact that you actually knew enough about the video to say, oh, wait, this only is really going to apply to someone in New York City. This is only going to apply to someone in Los Angeles. This is only going to apply to someone in Chicago. That's when you actually start to have a problem because you are now targeting in addition to just having that content on your platform.
I don't think they have a problem at all. Honestly, I don't think this case is going to fly. I feel for that woman, who lost her son.
They're going to be upheld.
I think Section 230 is going to prevail. I think it's going to be a Herculean task to get these platforms. I think they're going to get around having to reveal their algorithms in open court. I just don't think I don't think this is going to go
too big to fail, or is this not
too big to fail? They just paid the right people in, to lobby for them that we don't want this law to change.
And it sucks because this case has gotten probably closer than any other in sort of peeling back the curtain on Section 230. It sucks because they're not going to win, or the woman's not going to win. So this is going to bring that trap door back down on 230 like heavy, so that more cases that actually do have more verifiable, provable argument can come through. I think we're going to see fewer of those now when this case fails. Unfortunately,
tactic, or they don't want to bring the case because it's too much of a Herculean effort.
I think once this fails, I think the precedent will be gone. You got as close, to it without success as possible. And I think they missed an opportunity. I think the judge missed an opportunity dismissing the case against the MTA. How are they not liable? Literally, this boy was able to unlock the door. There were no signs posted saying don't leave the train car to go. Like, everything about the safety of riding that subway was negligent.
Right.
But the judge dismissed the claim brought against the MTA, which is the transit authority in New York City. So the idea that you would throw that part out, but still try to hold Meta liable or Meta and TikTok liable for an algorithm that you're not going to get access to. If they ain't give access to TikTok, didn't give access to the algorithm to the government that was ready to shut them down, you think they gonna give that access to that algorithm to this judge in this case? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And again, it's going to be unfortunate because I think had you not dismissed the case against the MTA together, maybe it could have been something, but I just don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna work.
So let me ask you this, and I think I've asked it a little bit, but let me ask it again. Is this because Meta and Facebook are too big to fail, and they've got high-powered lawyers, and they've got money, and they've got time to drag this thing out, or is it doesn't meet the criteria?
The burden of proof is the burden of proof is still very, very high. And again, if you don't get actual access to the algorithm,
you can't compare.
You can't prove it. You know what I mean? And I don't know how they force these companies to open up that black box in this case when they haven't been able to do it at any other point in time. And like I said, even at the place where TikTok was about to be banned, if they didn't give up the algorithm and sell and do all these other things, and we see TikTok is still operating this business as usual, I don't think you get them to open up that black box for this case in particular. And without that, you don't really have a case.
Well, Steph, as long as you don't think about it, it completely makes sense that the algorithm pushed out these videos only places where there are subways. As long as you don't think about it, that makes sense. It breaks down when it makes sense. So, Terrance, to your point or to your question, is that Meta and and ByteDance and other companies of that ilk, they have really, really good lobbyists and lawyers that they ultimately went to Congress, the people who make our laws, and they said that this is why we don't want these laws, and funded enough campaigns to where they got enough people to say, you know what, you're right, we really shouldn't hold you liable for anything that anybody does on your on your platform, because it's like, hey, you're just providing the platform, you shouldn't be liable for it. Whether we agree with that or not, that's ultimately what the law is, and that's why I don't know that they just get off of this. I think that there may be a settlement before anything happens.
Yeah, they'll probably settle with the woman to make it go away. Yeah. But it doesn't change anything about Section 230. You know what I mean? Like ultimately it becomes business as usual again. You know what I mean? Like it got a little bit of publicity and people will pull at the story will pull at heartstrings of people that get upset again over this thing that happened, which they should, but it's not actually going to affect a change in the way the algorithms get done. It's not going to give us any more insight into how those algorithms choose what to show different people. Facebook was showing diet pill ads to girls that had anorexia in Australia and got away with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not, unfortunately, this is not going to have any impact. And with the administration and Republican controlled everything, including FCC, like this is not going to have an impact on anything they do going forward, unfortunately. And they need to get the MTA sucked back into that lawsuit some kind of way, because they have just as much liability, if not more, than the tech companies do.
For stopping them from being able to do that in the first place.
Right.
Or prohibited them do a better job.
How are you just, I mean, I understand you could open and go between the cars and stuff like that, but you shouldn't even be able to do that. Like it just, this is, it's sad all the way around, because this woman lost her son. And to your point, Rob, I think she will get a couple dollars in a settlement or something like that, but it's not going to change anything about how the tech companies operate.
So we talked about algorithms a couple times here, and it just made me think of this. No, to stick this in the show notes. But what are y'all's thoughts on the president of the United States saying that he has a buyer for TikTok? Cap or no cap?
I don't even know what that means. Cap, or is cap means fake?
It's a lie or the truth?
Cap means fake, right?
Yeah, lie, like a lie.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
fake news.
Okay. Got it.
Come on, man, get with the times.
So,
You
man,
got
look,
kids. You need to know what
look,
the lingo is.
It's cap.
Yeah,
He
I'm
ain't got no
thinking. I'm
buyer.
thinking
He
cap.
knows people who have money that could possibly buy it, but that ain't the same as I got a buyer lined up.
Right.
That just
I
means
And
you
that
know
ain't the
people.
same as China is about to give up this whole company
Right.
to these people. Like,
I just can't see it. Why would ByteDance
they don't
give
have
up?
to.
You want to buy everything but the algorithm? Okay, billions of dollars. We will give you the platform. You're not getting the secret sauce.
Mm-mm.
I just don't see why they would do that. So, he came out and he said it, but you know what? I would be willing to bet money that we will see another 90-day extension at the end of September when this next one comes up. We talked about this when we got the last extension. I just believe that what we are doing now, this is like a misogyny law. We're just going to choose not to enforce it. It's still on the books. It's still a law. We just choose not to enforce it.
And it'll just quietly fade into the background, and people will continue to be on TikTok like usual.
Yeah. Well, Steph, I purposely put this one to the end because I think there's going to be some lively conversation on this. But I when I saw what you wrote, I was like, let me go watch this video. So for folks who have no idea what I'm talking about, Steph found a video where some Black women have come with the idea of actually using AI and robots to braid Black hair specifically. And Steph, you're the one who would probably get your hair braided out of the group of us because you actually still have enough hair that you could actually get braids in it.
I could get some
Is this
braids.
something that you would do?
Listen, I believe, first of all, let me put the disclaimer out there. If this link makes it into our show notes or anything like that, I do believe the bulk of the video was like AI generated. I don't think there are any AI robots out there yet.
99% of it is
Right?
fake.
Yeah, I don't think there are
104% AI.
Right. I don't think there's any robots out there yet braiding hair, but I don't see it as being something that far out of the realm of possibility or that far away. And while I would hate to see the Black beauty industry disrupted in this way,
The little bit of
because
Black industry we got.
Right, because there's so many people whose livelihood depends on being able to do this, from people that actually have shops that employ African women that'll be four in your head, taking a section of your hair, to the little girl in the hood that will sit you down on her living room floor and braid your hair for you, whatever. Like, I would hate to see that industry and people's ability to earn a living disrupted by this thing. However, I've also seen the videos of the level of egregious ass customer service that we sometimes get in these salons
too. Yep.
It's insane sometimes, the conditions, the braider don't want to finish. You're there for I've gotten my hair braided once or twice before in the past, before it was all cut off. The process takes minimum 8 hours, and that's if you have a braider that braids and continues to get done and doesn't take a break to eat,
go get sidetracked,
go pick her kids up from the daycare, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I would hope maybe that this, or at least even just the threat of it, would motivate some salons and stylists to do better, because we really, like, I literally have been going to my stylist for probably almost 30 years, specifically because they're good. I don't wait. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to deal with any of the nonsense that I hear people complaining about when they, Terrance, I'm sure you live in Atlanta. Them stylists in Atlanta off the chain.
And I got a wife and 3 kids.
Right.
and 2 daughters,
off the chain, with the deposit and the this and the that and the that, and they ain't showing up.
Rules.
They walking in late and coming in whenever they feel like the Black hair care industry, the salon industry, has gotten completely out of hand. And I hope that this is something that
A wake up call,
forces a
maybe.
correction. Forces a correction, because it you know, like I said, I don't want nobody to lose their bag. I ain't trying, you know, deny nobody no money, but you know, the black salon industry has gotten completely out of hand, and if this is what tightens y'all up to get back to customer service, to real customer service, then so be it.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing. It's the customer service part, because like I said, I've got a wife and 2 daughters, and I've dropped many a person off at the beauty salon at 8, 10 in the morning and come back at 6, 7 o'clock. Still got to sit in the car and wait for 20 minutes.
Right.
You know, so I know, and I've heard the stories of, you know, people getting distracted, and just without telling the whole story. And again, maybe everything doesn't have to be a full scale revenue generating industry that breeds millionaires. I know that's counterculture, but it's like, because the braids is such a, dare I say, sacred part of our culture, for it to be almost tried to be mass produced. Like, I've seen these shops to where all of these braiders, like Stephanie mentioned, 4 or 5 people are on your head at a time, and it kind of strips away some of the culture aspect of getting your hair done. Again,
Right.
but when we go to a barbershop, it's an experience, right? Talking, you get the sports, you get the silliness, you get all the things, and that's part of the experience, right? I imagine that there's a similar experience going to a beauty salon.
Oh yeah.
But it seems like these type of things that women are doing now to get their hair done, it's less of a
it's like an assembly line.
It's more of assembly line, means it's more of just a second thought, means it's just again, just a money thing, and it
money grab.
Takes away from the culture.
So,
and then women they do something else, and then that's how the bots come in, and then boom, this is how it started. And like Stephanie mentioned, you got to get back to that culture thing for this to stop this from even taking hold, because there's some sisters out there who would gladly get behind a robot if they get out in 3 hours.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So looking, and we have the video linked in our show notes. So come check out, you know, just the show notes, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're listening in a podcatcher, just go to this link. You can actually watch the Instagram video. So the first thing that I noticed is that if it's anything like what the video shows, it's not going to happen, because that robot's going to cost $37 million to actually have that happen.
Number one.
So that's number one. But here's what I actually think really could happen. A lot of the time in hair braiding, and having 2 daughters who both love to have braids in their hair, and when they were younger, actually once or twice getting sucked into sitting with them for 5, 6, 7 hours to get it done, because I didn't know the braider. It was like, you know, between my wife and I, we just had to go there and sit. Much of the time is not doing the intricate stuff on the scalp. It is just braiding the hair down to their waist, because that's what you wanted. So what I imagine is some type of machine. And I don't even know that this is necessarily a lot of AI in this. It's more of just a robot that has the intricacy to where you can get the braid started, and when you get off the scalp,
they already have a handheld.
Exactly.
I've used one before. It's a handheld thing. You put a piece of hair in each of the 3 little clips and squeeze it, and it braids. Yeah, absolutely. They already got those.
So I'm thinking more of that device with a little bit more computer and robot into it, to where now maybe you can actually get closer to the scalp and do that. And maybe it can come up with the designs and all that kind of stuff for you. That's what I see, because what we were looking at, even though, like I said, it was completely AI generated, and this is just an idea for some folks that are, maybe we could build something like this. The device itself would be so expensive. Would it actually warrant sometimes you don't build something just because the expenses.
But the thing is, I think it would probably be co-opted by somebody that did not look like us.
I was just about to say
that had that money to invest. And to Terrance's point, if it gets you in and out in 3 hours instead of 8,
right?
Maybe I'm gonna go to them and get my hair done. You know what I'm saying? Or at least one time out of the 6 times I go get my hair braided in a year, maybe one of the times I go to this robot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I agree with you, Terrance, on the whole kind of, we got to get it back to the culture thing, because there is, and I'm not going to call them out by name because they trying to make their money, but there's a salon in Maryland, and people listening, if you know, because I see them all the time on TikTok, that recently upgraded. They're a 24-hour braiding salon. Like, you can literally go there at 2 a.m. to get your hair braided. And I think there's a place in Newark that is 24 hours as well. But this particular place in Maryland is very popular. People come from all over the country. And they just recently upgraded. So they moved to this big warehousey type space, rows and rows of salon chairs, just a sweatshop. Yeah. Braiders all day, two, 3 people per head, you know what I mean? And just have, I wonder about the women that are doing the braiding. Are they being trafficked? Like, what's going on there? But that's a whole nother conversation. But they've turned the experience into an assembly line. Yeah. Yep. And so now you ain't got the hustle man coming in with the bootleg CDs and
no
DVDs.
Gossip, no
you know what I mean? You ain't gossiping with the people because you don't know anybody in there, because everybody
stuff on television.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody came from somewhere else. So you're not having that community
Same
is not
people,
there.
Routine.
That community is not. I'm sure they're probably, I'm sure the stylist turnover is probably pretty high. So you don't even get your same braider, every time you go in or whatever. So you've taken that community away, and you've incentivized it because it is quicker. I think people have said they gotten in and out of there in like under 5 hours,
especially trying to go on vacation.
Right.
You got time for all that.
You ain't got time for all that. I get it, but that just leaves the door open for something like this to come in, because if we already doing warehouse style braids anyway, and
it's plausible.
I can make the investment in this robot and not have to pay, for stop. You leaving the door open for it. Like you said, slippery slope.
Well, y'all, I'm looking at the clock. We right past the top of the hour. It's a nice tight 4 stories. We threw a couple little ad libs in there as well. But we didn't have any, we did not have any new patrons this week. But I do want to let folks know that if you would like to support Tech John, the way that you can do that is by heading over to thetechjohn.com. That's thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And you will find multiple tiers over there. And any one of those tiers are going to get you access to our live stream and our after party, which we're going to go into in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. And you also, depending on the tier, can get access to an ad-free stream. So if you like to listen to your podcast and you don't want to have to skip past the ads, you just don't want the ads there, you get onto the right tier inside of Patreon. And that is a benefit that we provide to you as well. So once again, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to support the show and help us bring this tech to you the way that we bring it to you. So with that being said, TechLifeSteph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at TechLifeSteph, or hit me up at stephaniehumphrey.com and sign up for my newsletter.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech John, the Tech JAWN at all things. So come holler at us however you holler. Until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.